Okay, let's unpack this. The idea of an AI workforce,
Yeah.
AI agents working alongside humans, it's not science fiction anymore. It's actually happening right now in U.S. companies.
That really is the big shift, isn't it? What felt theoretical just a short while ago is, well, it's rapidly becoming practical reality. And it's impacting pretty much everything.
Right, how companies work, who they hire. And we've got a stack of sources today, articles, research, all looking into this huge workforce change, the skills you need now, and real examples of these AI agents actually in the workplace.
Yeah, so our mission here in this deep dive is to try and cut through some of the noise, understand what these AI interns or AI workers actually are. How are companies really starting to use them, specifically here in the US?
And crucially, what's the impact? On jobs, yeah, but especially those entry-level roles that are so important.
And maybe most importantly, how can you, listening right now, how can you adapt, maybe even thrive in all this?
Exactly. We're pulling out the key facts, the surprising bits, straight from this material to hopefully give you a clearer picture.
Absolutely. So to really get our heads around this, we first need to pin down what this AI workforce thing even is. The sources, they define it as something like a team of diverse AI agents equipped with AI tools.
Okay, diverse agents.
Yeah, and they work together collaboratively in these things called multi-agent systems.
So this isn't just like automating one simple task, like setting up a macro or a basic chatbot.
No, definitely not. The material really stresses this is different. These agents, they're designed to plan, reason, react to new stuff, even make decisions on their own to get things done.
Ah, so less like a simple tool, more like a digital team member.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. It's about creating these digital entities that can handle more complex workflows, operate with more independence than, the old kind of automation.
And the sources suggest this isn't just a small step. This is where it gets really interesting, actually. Some big names in tech see this as completely transformative.
Oh, yeah. Big predictions. We saw Vinod Khosla mention, suggesting that, in less than 10 years, every American could have a dozen or more AI agents just constantly working for them.
A dozen, wow.
I know. And Bill Gates kind of echoed that, right, saying agents are coming and they'll utterly change how we live our lives, both online and off.
So leaders in the field aren't seeing this as just some niche business software.
Yeah.
They think it's going to reshape everything.
Pretty much. Which leads to this new model for companies. It's not just about counting human employees anymore.
Right. They're starting to think about having both a human workforce and an AI workforce working together.
Exactly. A tandem operation. It's a whole rethinking of what a team even looks like.
And this isn't like 10 years down the road. You're saying companies are doing this now.
They are. And often through these specialized AI internship programs, the sources highlight there's actually huge demand for those right now.
Yeah, I saw that. Mentioned hundreds of AI-related internships available. So companies are actively trying to bring these AI agents in now.
Definitely. And we found some fascinating examples in the material. Linear Energy, for instance, they're in renewable energy.
Right.
They've got undergraduate AI intern positions focused specifically on prototyping business use cases.
So the interns are tackling real business problems.
Yeah. Developing tools for market dashboards, automating the extraction of clauses from leases, even working on classifying satellite images. That's core stuff.
That really shows it being applied directly. What else?
Then there's a company called Raggy AI Inc. They have roles for AI agent developer interns, and these folks are building production-grade agents.
Production-grade, so ready to go.
Yeah, using advanced frameworks, think LangChain, AutoGen. These are the toolkits for building these sophisticated AI workers to solve complex, real-world problems.
And underpinning a lot of this capability, it sounds like, are the big players, OpenAI.
For sure. Their GPT systems, accessible through APIs, that's foundational. It lets businesses plug in agents for all sorts of things, complex questions, customer service, drafting content.
Google DeepMind, too, right? They were mentioned.
Yep. They're big on autonomous systems, reinforcement learning, teaching AI through trial and error, basically. Applications even in healthcare, processing medical data. Their Gemini models also support agent development.
And it's not just the tech giants, though. I saw Medius mentioned.
Right. That was interesting. They created an in-house AI playground, a safe space for their teams to explore generative AI.
Okay.
And they're using autonomous agents to actually support their internal teams, like helping employees with daily workflows. So it's becoming part of the employee experience itself.
So based on all that, the sources kind of break down the types of agents we're seeing.
Yeah, broadly speaking, you've got administrative ones, managing calendars, scheduling. Customer service agents handling inquiries 204/7, data analysis agents crunching info, generating reports, and content creation agents drafting documents, emails, that kind of thing.
Okay, so let's zoom out a bit. We see what they are and how companies are starting to use them. What does this all mean for, well, for you listening, and for the U.S. job market overall? The sources seem pretty blunt about this.
Yeah, they didn't mince words, calling it one of the most consequential workforce transformations since the Industrial Revolution.
That's a big statement.
It is. And you can see why companies are moving fast when you look at the benefits they're seeing. Operational efficiency is a huge one.
How huge?
The reports cited suggest cost reductions of 30–50% by automating workflows.
Wow. And examples.
Concrete ones, yeah. Microsoft, Google using AI for code generation, data entry, handling customer service around the clock. Things humans used to do or couldn't do at that scale.
And productivity.
Undeniable gains there too. AI achieving like 99.9% consistency on repetitive tasks. Humans, even good ones, are maybe 92–95%.
Big difference.
Huge. Think legal document review, financial reporting. Stuff that took weeks, maybe minutes now with AI.
But here's that paradox the sources brought up. While some tasks get automated, new jobs are actually appearing.
Exactly. It's fascinating. We're seeing demand pop up for AI supervisors, people who manage the AI agents, ethics auditors, super important, making sure the AI is fair, hybrid manager developers.
And roles specifically needing AI skills.
Growing like crazy. One data point cited showed roles needing AI system validation, prompt engineering, knowing how to talk to the AI, effectively showing 142% year-over-year growth. Massive.
Okay, so that's the upside. But the sources also flagged some pretty serious risks, didn't they?
Right.
Especially for people just starting out.
Yeah, this is where it gets really challenging. The systemic consequences could be quite significant.
Like what? What's the main concern?
A big one is the erosion of those traditional career launch pads. You know, the entry-level jobs where you learn the ropes.
How so?
Well, if companies use AI for tasks like reviewing documents or basic data analysis, they don't need as many junior people.
No.
The sources gave this example of law firms using AI for document review. Their incoming associate classes are apparently 40% smaller.
40%? That's huge. That means fewer spots for new grads to get that first crucial experience.
Exactly. And that feeds directly into what the sources called accelerated experience inflation. It's a paradox.
Experience inflation.
Yeah. The data showed something like 60% of jobs labeled entry-level now demand 2 to 3 years of experience.
Wait, entry level? Requiring years of experience? How does that even work?
I know. And for junior software roles, the average experience needed reportedly jumped from like 0.8 years in 2019 to a projected 2.1 years by 2025.
Okay, so that makes it way harder to break in.
Massively harder. And this creates real socioeconomic mobility barriers. If you need experience for an entry-level job, but AI has shrunk the places you get that experience, who does that hit hardest?
First-generation students.
Yeah.
People without established networks.
Exactly. The sources cited this pretty stark statistic. Ivy League grads are now apparently getting 78% of the remaining entry-level tech jobs. That's up from 43% before AI adoption really took off. It suggests the gap is widening.
Wow. So the fundamental shift seems to be humans move away from routine stuff.
That's the idea. Away from predictable tasks towards work that needs more creativity, critical thinking, complex problem solving, emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
The AI does the grunt work. Humans provide the insight, the nuance, the judgment.
Okay, so given this challenging landscape, what did the material say about adapting? How can individuals actually navigate this?
Yeah, the good news is the sources offered some pretty clear strategies. It really boils down to developing new skills and, crucially, learning to use AI as a tool, not just seeing it as competition.
Okay, for people already working.
The big focus is on building hybrid skills. You need that technical AI literacy, understanding how to use the tools effectively, but you have to combine it with those irreplaceable human skills.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, so maybe you use ChatGPT to whip up a first draft of a report, right? Saves you time. But then you apply your critical thinking to check the facts, validate the info, and you use your emotional intelligence to tweak the tone, make sure the message lands right for your specific audience.
Ah, so AI does the draft, human does the refinement and validation.
Exactly. And the sources suggest that skilling up in specific areas like AI system auditing, checking the AI's work, or bias detection, that's really valuable, could even lead to salary bumps like 22–35% premiums mentioned.
Okay, that makes sense for current workers. What about students, people still in school?
Well, the sources argue pretty strongly for a a revolution in the curriculum. AI shouldn't just be in computer science classes. It needs to be embedded everywhere, like an AI co-pilot across disciplines.
A co-pilot. How would that look?
Imagine journalism students using AI tools to help with fact-checking massive data sets, architecture students using generative AI design tools alongside their traditional skills, biology researchers using AI that predicts protein folding, but also mastering the hands-on wet lab techniques.
So integrating it into the actual work of each field.
Precisely. And the data suggests this works. Students who are early adopters of this integrated approach, they apparently show 89% higher employment rates after graduation.
89%. That's huge. And skills like data literacy, prompt engineering, that becomes essential.
Absolutely critical. Knowing how to talk to the AI, how to frame the questions to get useful results, that's a core skill now.
And what about interns specifically? Any advice there?
Yeah, the suggestion is to actively look for what they called AI-augmented experiential learning.
Okay, AI augmented. What does that mean in practice?
It means internships where you're intentionally paired with AI counterparts. The goal is to maximize learning and let you focus on higher level stuff.
So instead of an intern just debugging code for hours.
Right. Maybe an AI pair programmer reviews the basic code, freeing up the intern to think about the overall system architecture. Or marketing bots handle routine scheduling so the intern can work on campaign strategy.
Or HR chatbots do initial applicant screening.
So the intern can focus on designing better diversity and inclusion initiatives.
Yeah.
And the sources noted this model actually creates more leadership opportunities.
Right.
Like 3.6 times more compared to old school internship.
So the big takeaway for adapting seems to be building this, what do they call it, the synthetic skill set?
Yeah, that was the term. Blending the technical ability to work with AI with those uniquely human qualities. Creativity, empathy, critical judgment that AI, at least for now, can't replicate.
The sources had some stories about this, right? People actually doing.
They did, yeah. Really powerful ones. There was Sophia, a first-gen college grad. She saw her immigrant community struggling with healthcare bureaucracy. So she built a chatbot herself to help people navigate it, used AI for social good, and that initiative, that proactive, creative use of AI, it landed her an AI internship, shows that entrepreneurial mindset.
That's great, but it's not always easy, right? There was another story, Jason.
Yeah. Jason's story highlights the challenges. Talented coders, apparently, but got completely stuck with automated AI screening systems when applying for jobs. Sent out hundreds of applications, got nowhere.
That's frustrating. How did he get through?
He eventually figured out a workaround strategically embedding keywords from the job descriptions into the hidden metadata of his online portfolio, basically gaming the AI screener.
Wow. Clever. But it shows how these systems can be a real barrier, even for qualified people.
Definitely. But there are positive trends, too. The material mentioned platforms like SkillBridge using AI not just to screen, but to actively match overlooked candidates by finding hidden skills in their backgrounds. Kind of a cool digital David versus Goliath idea.
So trying to use AI to broaden opportunity, not just filter.
Exactly. And ultimately, the perspective that kept coming up in the sources was seeing AI as a potential collaborator, something to work with, not just against.
You know, thinking about all this massive shift, the sources really do push you to think bigger picture about, like, a new social contract for work in this AI era.
Yeah, it raises fundamental questions, doesn't it? What does it really mean to preserve the dignity of human work when machines can do so much, so fast, so consistently?
Can we actually build these systems and the work structures around them in a way that genuinely empowers people? Or are we just heading towards a workforce split? You know, the AI directors and then everyone else.
It's a huge question. Maybe the future isn't about competing head-to-head with algorithms. Maybe it's more about learning how to dance with algorithms without losing your human rhythm, as one source put it.
Dance with algorithms without losing your human rhythm. I like that. What does that human rhythm look like for you listening in your job or your studies? Something to think about.
Definitely.
So this deep dive, looking through all this material, it makes it crystal clear. AI agents, they aren't some future hypotheticals. They are here right now, actively reshaping the U.S. workplace, from the first job you get to what expertise even means.
Yeah, understanding this shift, really leaning into building those hybrid skills and figuring out how to use AI as a tool to amplify your unique human abilities. That seems absolutely essential for anyone navigating their career path from here on out.
We really hope pulling together these insights from the sources gave you some valuable food for thought. If you found this deep dive helpful, please do follow or subscribe wherever you're listening so you don't miss our next one.